All wings report in. Austin standing by.
Mike, standing by.
Austin, standing by.
The Rogue 3 podcast is locked on target. Whether it's movies, shows, books, comics, or more, we're going to be coming to you from a galaxy far, far away to celebrate all things Star Wars. Hey guys, welcome to the Rogue 3 podcast. We are coming together today to discuss the newest book released, or I guess second newest at this point at the time of recording, The Acolyte, The Crystal Crown, which was written by Tessa Gratton. This is going to be the second book from the Acolyte series following Wayseeker by Justina Ireland back in May. So we're excited to talk about it with y'all. First, we're going to start by discussing how have we interacted with Star Wars this week. Mike, how have you interacted with Star Wars this week?
Yeah, as I mentioned on our last episode, I've been working on creating a Scout Trooper 3D printed helmet. And for those viewers on YouTube, you'll be able to see that I have it mostly put together now. I haven't started sanding or painting it at all. It does fit my head, which was a little bit nerve-wracking to try it on. I can't put it on with the headphones because it does kind of bump my ears. But it fits really, really well. And so I'm really excited to kind of do the next step, which is going to be sanding it down and then painting a nice gloss on it. And then I'll be looking for some Ewoks out there.
I love it. Sounds like maybe a TikTok or Instagram video.
Yeah. We'll I'll try and document some of the progress as I go and talk about it, because I've done a few of these, so I kind of have learned quite a bit along the way. And for anyone out there that is interested in 3D printing, it is way easier than you think it is, especially because I didn't make that file. I got it from online. I'm actually trying to search to figure out where I got it because it was 4 or 5 years ago, and I want to credit the creator. I haven't been able to figure out where I got it from. I can't find where it was anymore. But it's a lot easier with Thingiverse and a lot of files that are out there available to make for free, basically.
Will you be able to make like the lens, like the actual like?
Definitely, you can buy like little face shields that are for like working and stuff like that, and cut it out and glue it in there, all of that. So all of that will be able to go in there, and I'll have like other little pieces that go in there, like this little piece that is gonna go right on the face piece.
Oh, cool!
All those little additional pieces can be printed out and done to give it a lot of nice detail. It's not going to be 501st ready or anything like that. No detail, not that level of skill, but it'll be a good little display piece to go up somewhere around me.
Nice. You've got quite a few little 3D printed trinkets around you right now.
I do. I'm particularly most proud. I moved him to go from my bookcase outside, but I'm most proud of my BD1.
That's awesome.
which is adorable.
Which is awesome, and I love that it. You know what? The battery is dead. But it actually lights up. It has lights and stuff that go on in the back and everything. And that was a labor of love. And I really, really enjoyed making it a lot.
Austin, I think you need to get yourself a droid. This is on your desk because I've got CV23 in my
he doesn't have one.
Export, so.
I know. I've got nothing. All I've got is my Galaxy's Edge lightsaber.
That's pretty cool.
We'll have to get you a droid next time we go down.
Hey. I'd love it. That sounds great.
Let's do it.
Yeah, sounds great to me.
What about you guys?
How have you interacted? Yeah.
Well, for me, obviously, the big thing is reading Crystal Crown. That's kind of been the bulk of my time. But between finishing that and starting the next book that we'll talk about at the end, I picked up the volume 1 of the Art of the High Republic. I was just kind of thumbing through that the other day. And I forgot how much good information is in there. Like, a lot of the art books are pretty scant on like actual text, because obviously it's an art book. The goal is to look at the art, but this one has a ton of behind the scenes detail on like how they developed the era and what all work went into it, detailing
awesome.
Like the early discussions before they like decided on what they were doing.
Okay.
And what was really cool about it was there was like a little anecdote in there when they were throwing out ideas about, they basically knew it was going to take place before the prequels, but they didn't really have any frame of reference besides that. And one of the ideas they threw out was Baby Yoda, and this was before they knew anything about the Mandalorian. Like, the authors didn't know what was going on in the Mandalorian. Baby Yoda was one of the concepts they tossed around. So that was a fun little aside. But yeah, Crystal Crown's pretty much been the bulk of my Star Wars life past 2 weeks.
I'm kind of the same way. Most of my time is spent trying to finish this book. All three of us have been railroading through this book this week to try to finish it. And we've got another book to railroad in the next couple of weeks. But I spent a lot of time reading that book, but I've also been playing a lot of Lego Star Wars again. I just finished Lego Star Wars 2, the original trilogy, and on to Lego Star Wars, the complete saga. For those of you thinking, Austin, isn't that half the game? Aren't you replaying half that game already? Yes, I am. Thank you.
They are different. I mean, I never finished. Yeah, I never finished Skywalker Saga, honestly, because I felt like it was so different in how it was done, like how the gameplay kind of proceeded from the older one. So I actually never finished it. But I like that you're going through it after we talked about video games 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I had to. I've been replaying all of the old, I'm on Xbox, all of the old 360 games were on sale last weekend, I think. And so I just decided they're all $5. I'm going to round them all up and buy them. And so I've got Force Unleashed to play through, Force Unleashed 2. So Lego Star Wars 3. Nice. Good set of games. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right. But there's a reason we're here today, right? So we're going to talk about The Crystal Crown. As I said earlier, it was written by Tessa Gratton. This book follows the characters of Jecki, Lon, and Yord Fondar from The Acolyte. Those of you who don't remember, Jecki was the Padawan of Master Soul, and Yord was the very attractive, funky Jedi Knight.
Yord Horde.
Yord Horde. And they and their masters in this novel travel to the planet of Silene and take part in a coming-of-age convocation, which is basically a series of tasks that are undertaken by young adults to see who will lead the Silinese into the future. Like I said, this was written by Tessa Gratton. She is a relatively new Star Wars author. She only started in 2022. I do want to make a note that Tessa Gratton uses she, he, they pronouns. In the author's bio on the back, they use she, so we will stick with that for consistency. But I did just want to make that note. She did author several High Republic books, such as The Path of Deceit and Defy the Storm, which she did with Justina Ireland. She also did Quest for Planet X and Temptations of the Force. So she's got a good number of High Republic. Even since 2022, she's got a good number of High Republic books under her belt. So now we've got another one, The Crystal Crown.
Basically, she's only done the High Republic with Star Wars. Coming in the last couple years, that's been all of her Star Wars experience, as far as I saw, was High Republic. So this is almost, as the High Republic closes out, this almost, you could say, is the last High Republic book after Trials of the Jedi came out about two months ago. And I think it's interesting to see where she'll go from here. If she's still going to be working with Star Wars, doing more. I know some of the High Republic authors, I think, want to take a break because it was a lot over the last few years. But I'd be curious because I've really enjoyed a lot of what she's brought to Star Wars, especially this book.
We'll kind of talk about our hopes for her, which we do. I at least have hopes for her at the end. We'll talk about the future. But for now, do we just want to dive right into it? This section is going to be spoiler free. So if you have not read the book, feel free to hang around for a little bit. I do recommend, if you have not read the book, to go ahead and skip on out once we get through the spoiler free section. Just so that you can enjoy the book for the first time yourself. It's a very easy read. So as far as spoiler free impressions, Mike, what did you think of the book?
I really enjoyed it. I got it a week ago and I pretty much read it in a week. I had a couple days where I was sick at home. Hopefully I don't cough and I sound okay right now. So I got to read a little bit on Friday at home while I was trying to recover. But it was a quick, good read. As the High Republic, as I mentioned in the intro, like the High Republic is coming to a close. I was kind of hopeful like this extends that joy a little bit that I had reading through all of those books. And it did feel connected to that a little bit, but it felt, whereas Wayseeker with Justina Ireland felt way more connected to the High Republic instead of the Acolyte, this was the opposite. there's like little hints, especially with the Graff family that we'll get into later, that it connected it to the High Republic. It felt much, much more connected to the Acolyte show. And I like that bridges that gap a little bit. We get a little bit more of those characters that we only saw for 5-6 episodes, really. And so I really enjoyed diving in. And I thought, even as a standalone, if you hadn't watched the show, if you hadn't read the High Republic at all, my impression was that it would be a really good read just overall. You can understand the characters really well, their motivations, what they like. Yord and Jecki being darn near polar opposites in how they react to things and like things. I thought that Tessa Gratton did a really, really good job laying that out for everyone. And so I really enjoyed reading through it. And it was fun. It was a really fun. I liked the challenges, the convocation, this kind of culture that we got to see. That's one of the things that I always love about Star Wars, is seeing new cultures and the difference of them and how they interact. So this kind of warrior culture was really, really interesting. And this new species that, isn't always the most fun thing to have in a book because you can't picture them. But I thought she also did a really good job describing them and their way of life and how they look and all of that stuff. So I really, really enjoyed it.
One of my biggest pet peeves is when we read a book and I have no idea what this new species looks like at all. Yep. That was absolutely not the case at all with this book.
Yeah.
I had a very clear image in my head of who these characters were. Austin, what'd you think?
Yeah, I love this book. I find a lot of times with the YA novels, they're either like some of my favorites or some of my least favorites. And this definitely fell in the favorite camp. It was a very easy read. Like, I really had a hard time putting it down at night. I felt like Tessa got like a really good voice for Jecki and Yord. I think, like as Mike mentioned, it was a good standalone novel, and that you could, if you had never seen Acolyte or read anything, you could pretty much pick up and know what you were going with if you had the concept of a Jedi in your head. But I feel like she really nailed like who those characters were. It didn't feel like different than how they felt in the show, and it was nice that this doesn't really touch anything else. I wasn't really worried about the looming threat of Chimera like over their shoulder or whatever. Like, it wasn't like that situation. Like, it was very on its own, and I really loved it. Jecki was probably my favorite character in the Acolyte, and having her so forward in this book was really great.
It was really mostly written from her perspective, or she was the main focus. And I was really surprised how far into the book it went before we got a chapter where I was like, oh, this is a Yord chapter. I was waiting. I thought I was going to go fully back and forth, but it was really a Jecki centered book.
Yeah, that was honestly like one of the things I wrote down was, I don't know if I've ever read a book that had probably 3/4 of it from the perspective of one character, but then the other quarter was like divided amongst other people. Like, a lot of books are either everyone or one character, and sometimes you'll have like a book that's like 90% one character, though, like one chapter that's different or whatever. But this was about like a third of the way through. I felt like before like a Yord chapter popped up, and then we got a Leo chapter later. That really threw
at the end, when we got a Leo chapter at the end, I was like, wait, is Leo the one who's thinking their way through this chapter? I was like, where's Jecki? How do we know what Leo's thinking?
Yeah, and I thought that was really I thought that was really like, I appreciated that she didn't limit herself because of like normal like novel conventions. Like, she did what she needed to do to tell the story.
It was a very much a High Republic way of writing, is like you bounce between a lot of different characters. Like, it's this person's chapter, and then it's this person, and this person, and this person, and she didn't follow that convention, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I love the book. And I am going to steal something from Austin here, who said this, and I completely agree. A lot of the other books, whether they be adult novels or young adult novels, they're very like character focused. And this novel felt very plot focused. I'm starting to get just a teensy bit over the character name. And it's just the book is called Obi-Wan, or the book is called Ahsoka, or whatever. And it's just, let's follow this character doing something random. This book very much felt like the focus of it wasn't necessarily, even though Jecki was our main character, it didn't feel like it was, this is Jecki's book. It felt like we were learning about a different culture, and it felt like there was more to it than just seeing how Jecki was evolving. I have to say, this is probably, unless I'm forgetting something, this is probably my favorite of the young adult books. I really liked this one. I loved The Acolyte. And so it was so fun and just a little heartbreaking to learn to love these characters in a different way. They felt the same, but they also had growth throughout the book as well. I really want to go back and rewatch The Acolyte now just to see how does the end of this book fit into the beginning of The Acolyte. Do the characters still feel the same? So that's exciting, and just another excuse to rewatch The Acolyte, which I love.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that these two characters, Yord and Jecki, like left such an impression that they weren't the main focus of The Acolyte, right?
Not at all.
And then Soul, who is very much like on the sideline, just in the background, mostly for this book. That I thought he was going to have a much larger role as Jecki's master here, but he really doesn't. It's really like focused on them, and it's very much like event focused of what they're doing, and it didn't feel like it was trying to do too much almost with these characters that we have them for a limited time. We only know a limited amount about them.
This is what I really like about Star Wars books in general. My favorite Star Wars books aren't the one where we get to follow Luke Skywalker for the 550th time. I love when we get these characters who are fan favorites, but really don't have a lot of meat to them necessarily in in the show or in a movie or something. And we get to dive deeper into who they are. That's when I think this really works.
When are we getting that Kit Fisto book? Right?
Kit Fisto book, right? I'm still waiting for that Shakti book. From 2005 or 2000. It's not.
She was the name of it. What was the name of that book?
Something from Dagu. Escape from Dagu.
Is like Escape from Dagu or something like that.
I don't remember like that. But we got Yoda Dark Rendezvous instead.
Young me was waiting every day for it.
I was so upset because I was such a big Shakti fan as a kid, and I was like, I want this Shakti book. And when I heard it was something that was canceled, I was just
They released
upset.
a cover and everything.
And I was like, why? And I'm sure there's a lot of decisions that go into why something gets released and why something doesn't get released. But I was like, oh, we get another Yoda book instead of a really cool Shakti book. And you know what? Maybe the book was crap. Maybe they just realized we can't release this. It could very well be, but still disappointing. Still waiting for that. All right. Well, we are going to dive into spoiler territory at this point. This is going to include spoilers for the Crystal Crown, but also spoilers for the High Republic and spoilers for the Acolyte. If you have not read or watched any of this, I do encourage you to go read and watch it. All of them are just excellent content. All three of us love them all. So I encourage you to go do that. And if you're still listening, I get it. I spoil myself all the time. So
this is coming from someone who reads the plot Wikipedias for movies when they come out before he sees them.
All right, not just the plot Wikipedias. I also go into the Star Wars Leaks subreddit.
Okay, both of them. You can't help himself.
I can't help myself. I can't wait. I just can't wait. But when I do wait, it's worth it. But I can't usually wait.
Like this.
With the books, luckily, I care just enough to read it and not enough to go spoil it. Which that's like the space to be in. That's the good stuff.
Right. Just interested enough.
So Austin, what are your spoiler thoughts?
Yeah, so there's not a ton in this book that's like super, super spoilery to get into, but definitely my favorite aspect of the book was getting into Jecki and learning more about Jecki and seeing her as this like younger Padawan that's not like, she's very confident in her abilities and like her athleticism and everything, but she's wanting to push herself in the Force. And we get to kind of explore her relationship with Soul. Like in The Acolyte, the bulk of that show is focused on Master Soul's relationship to May and Osha, and Jecki's kind of like incidental in that story. But here we kind of get to see her and Soul, like her not ever really understanding what he wants of her, and like her like desperation for his approval, and like getting those little quiet nods of like, good job, Jecki. So I thought that was really great, and getting to see her like thrust into this environment where she's like not allowed to use the Force and making friends with these other people, I think was a fun setting for a story.
It was always so interesting when we would kind of go back and forth where she would use the Force and where she wouldn't use the Force. And it's interesting. They really displayed the Force as this, like, obviously this great power. And compared to when she's not using the Force, she's so much more powerful when she has to use it. I think that's very interesting as well.
The scene where she like moves the arrow, and like all the other characters kind of got to see, like the Force is a big deal. That was neat because earlier on in the novel, it was really neat that these like warrior people like wanted Jecki and Yord to be able to use the Force. They're like, that's a part of who you are. Like you should be able to bring that to the table. So I thought that was a neat dichotomy.
Yeah. I really liked them talking about how like they have to dampen it, right? They have to actively like force themselves to not use it because it's just so much a part of themselves, of how they interact with the world, that they have to almost like stop themselves from using it instead of just not do it. It's like stopping breathing or blinking or things like that. That is just so a part of them.
They mentioned that several times throughout the novel, that they really can't separate themselves from the Force. But she can outwardly separate it, at least. It was very interesting to see the contrast between Jecki and Yord's perspectives. Yord is very much he's so rigid. And it's interesting that this book starts, he's, preparing to take his trials so that he becomes a Jedi Knight. But he's not pushing himself. He's just kind of there and he's doing what he's told. And Jecki's the one who's really challenging herself. And she's not yet up for the trials. So it's kind of interesting to see where they are in their training.
We kind of saw a little bit of their relationship in The Acolyte, that you kind of see Yord's very by the book. He's very straight-laced. And Jecki's a little bit more, not a wild child necessarily, but a little bit more like willing to go outside the bounds, to try different things and see what happens. And this was, I think, the emphasis of seeing them be that in this environment was really, really cool. And expecting Yord to want to just give up at some point, but he never did. But then both growing in those, building an understanding of each other a little bit better, because they start out, both of them, disliking each other.
Yeah.
But by the end, they have more of an understanding, especially with Jecki giving him her lightsaber and all of that right at the finale that we'll, I think, talk about probably later.
In The Acolyte, I can't remember. Did they have any kind of strained relationship in The Acolyte? I don't remember like an especially strained one, but they're different.
To my memory, I think it was friendly. Like maybe it was like some friendly like banter back and forth, but it was nothing.
I think it was mostly Yord suggesting something like by the book, like this is what we're supposed to do, and then Jecki suggests something else, and that's what Soul goes with when they're trying to catch May. And so you kind of see a little bit that Yord's, this by the book person, and Jecki's not. But this expounds upon that.
Yeah, nothing. They definitely grow closer, because at the beginning of the book, they're, I don't know if I call it antagonistic, but they're just they don't understand each other at all.
Openly annoyed.
Yeah. Right. Openly annoyed. Yes. There you go. They're openly annoyed.
I very much related to Yord's like desire to not want to camp and sleep outdoors.
I did too.
I felt seen by Yord in that moment. He's like, I want clean clothes and a shower. I'm like, I understand that, Yord. I'm right there with you.
And I would be right there with Jecki, having just camped a couple weeks ago and just go out into the wilderness and just be like, yo, yeah, this is cool. Like, oh, where are we going to find some fresh water? Like, I don't know. We'll just go find it. I was like, I would be right there. I think like surviving a week in the woods sounds like so much fun.
Nature is just too dirty. Nature is just too dirty for me and Yord and Austin.
Maybe not the nature on Silene though, because some of those things were a little bit intense.
Scary. The leeches, they really didn't feel that enormous in the grand scheme of things, but oh my gosh, can you imagine being covered in leeches like Yord?
Yeah.
Nightmarish stuff.
It was interesting. Something we've talked about before is how this book really like feels like the Hunger Games, and like the whole idea of like competition is not something that's really been explored much in Star Wars before, and it really became more like the Hunger Games when they entered the second task, which is like where the bulk of the book was spent. and they mentioned that like this was like an artificial nature. This wasn't like anything. It was like kind of like a encapsulation of all of the environments of Silene. So I thought that was neat that this was nature, like surviving in nature, but it was a manufactured nature.
And it really, at the end of the day, it felt a little bit more like the Triwizard tournament, no?
Yes, I think so. And there's a couple reasons for that. This book reminded me of that. One, obviously, it's like the 3 trials, I think is one big thing. But the number one reason is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is named after an object that really doesn't have much to do with that story. And this is also named after a cool sounding object that really is not that important to the overall narrative.
The whole book, I'm like, what is the Crystal Crown? What is the Crystal Crown? When are we going to see it? Where is it? And then it's just a little crown that Satya gets right at the very end of the book. And it's fairly unimpressive. Jecki notes it's just this little thing sitting. I don't remember where it was. It was sitting on like a piece of
furniture. It's like on the ottoman, like in the living room.
Yeah. And it's just like these different colored crystal spires. And I think they're tipped with gold or something. But and Satya didn't even seem to be that enamored by it.
I'm sure it was mentioned like towards the beginning of the book, but like I don't remember that mention.
I don't either.
At the end, it's like, oh, this is it.
This is the Crystal Crown. I mean, I figured they called it, I think, the Crystal Convocation throughout, and I kind of just figured this is what someone was going to get, whoever won, and it was. At the end of the day, it was fairly unrelated, but I am glad I mentioned earlier how I'm over the single character name books. Let's name it after an event, and we did, and that's great.
Well, and I think the full government name, based on the cover of this, is Star Wars: The Acolyte, The Crystal Crown, and there's even a subheading under that on the cover that says "Set in the Era of the High Republic."
Yes, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the Silinese. The most of this book took place on the planet Silene, and we got to see a new species. And Tessa Gratton did an absolutely fabulous job drawing out what this species looked like for us.
Do you want to go into alien roll call then?
Let's do our alien roll call.
All right. Yeah, so the Silinese are totally new to the story, totally new to Star Wars. I tried looking into Legends material and didn't see anything. So it was a brand new world, brand new people that got created, and very much focused on their crystals, both in the environment that they live, but also their bodies. Their bones are dense crystals, which I thought was one of the most interesting parts. That on the outside they have crystals on their face and from their wrists and other places, but that is also their it's their genetic structure basically is all crystal. And I thought that was really, really what a cool new species to add. I would love to see them eventually somewhere else in the Star Wars universe with every new species that gets added. I always want to see them somewhere else, show them out in the world. They even mentioned, we don't think that there's ever been a Jedi Silinese before. Well, now I need to have that.
Exactly. Right? It was interesting. They really, they described their bones were made of crystal. When I usually think of crystal, I think of this breakable glass-like thing. And it's so interesting to think of, really crystal can be really, really strong, right? I mean, would that be the case?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think she mentioned when the character fell from the
pillar
tower thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that like it sounded like shattering glass or something like that when they made like a crushing sound when he fell. Yeah,
I was convinced he had died. I was so upset. I was so angry at our companions in that part of the book. I was like, we're done with this. And Jecki and Yord were too. They were considering leaving them and going on their own for the remaining part of the challenge. But it's the way that different cultures see what is an appropriate action to take. Right.
And I think she did a great job like defining who the Silinese were.
We see this, this culture when we first arrive, and immediately we know that there's a lot of gender fluidity with them,
Mhm.
that
Yep.
some of the adults that they meet right away, it's not, it's not just male or female, it's fluid. And even with Rose, the younger sibling, it shifts between male and female, which I thought was an even cooler addition, that it'll go back, and certain features will be, I think it's her ears change color based on what
Mhm.
gender they are at that moment. And I thought that was a really neat way to kind of bring gender. We've had gender fluidity, especially in the High Republic. If you've read it, there's a lot of non-binary characters and others. But that was a really cool way to bring it into a whole culture that it's based around that. And it in their culture, it seems like it doesn't matter, right? It's not a overly important. It just is, which I think is such a great way to talk about it. It's just how people are, right? It's not a big to do. It's not a big thing. It's just, it is.
Yeah, I did like how it really, briefly, I remember at the beginning, Jecki mentioned that she couldn't tell, how did Sitya know that Rose used she now or he, or I don't remember which the first shift was, but it was interesting. We had that little bit of questioning, and then it just it was what it was. This is part of who we are. And I thought that was very interesting. I don't, at first I was worried it would make it difficult to read. It really didn't at all make it difficult to read. The way that Tessa wrote it, it made a whole lot of sense. And I appreciated that.
Yeah, I could see it being hard if it was like constantly going back and forth every, moment. Right.
Yeah.
But it was almost like it was a few days, and then it would shift and it'd be like, oh, the next morning. And Jecki notices
Rose goes by she now or he.
Rose is, yep. And I thought, it was just a really, really awesome way to include something like that in the book without it being a main plot point or something. It's just how these people are. And I thought that was really neat.
Jecki, I think at the beginning thinks, how did Sitya, who is the older sister to Rose, how did she know that Rose was now using he or she? Or did she just ask? And I thought that was interesting as well. If you're unsure, just ask.
Right. Yeah. And that's with Leo. They use they, them as well. And that's kind of a Graf thing. I think Tessa Gratton wrote the book with Sky Graf, who's also a they, them. And so it's very much in the Graf family, but also something that Tessa Gratton has brought into a lot of Star Wars books, which is awesome to see her continue to bring non-binary characters to the forefront, have them be a part of these stories, be visible, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's so important that we bring more visibility.
Leo was an interesting character. I think Leo was the only character in the book besides Jecki and Yord that got point of view chapters. And I think it was very interesting seeing a human that was so interested in like the Silinese culture, and they really identified with the with being Silinese rather than human. And they like put the like crystal ornamentation like on their teeth and in their face and stuff, but they had all the rubies and everything,
the ruby eyes.
And I think that was a really neat distinction that like they were so wanting to be Silinese and like prove themselves through the competition.
And even at the end, when it came time for Leo to choose, are they going to have a trial or are they going to go the old way and have a combat trial? And Leo chose to have a combat trial because that's what a true Silinese would do. And I thought that was very interesting as well, that it didn't just extend superficially. It was until death did Leo feel truly Silinese, not human, but Silinese.
And I really thought it was interesting for the Silinese to mostly accept Leo as one of them, right? That their parents were really not involved with Silinese. They were doing their business on the side. They really didn't want much to do with the Silinese, but Leo is very much a part of the culture, and Rose and Leo are very, very close together. In fact, I'd say that they're a couple, even though they're not outwardly saying that to each other. But I thought that was really cool that the Silinese, as these people, also will just accept whoever, right? That they're just like, oh, this person wants to be one of us, like we can, it starts to happen. There's a little bit from some people that are kind of not on board with the Jedi and all of that and the Republic, but they're getting there. And I thought that was a really important bridge.
Yeah. It was a very complex culture socially. Like they were a warrior people that took a lot of pride in that. Like, like Cydia in particular was like very invested in the warrior spirit, and their leadership was chosen by the people that were the best warriors. But they also,
it was a war council.
They took away the lethality of the competition. They took away the death aspect of it. And they seem to really value like art and like beauty, which is not typically associated with a warrior culture.
I think of rigidity, which is why the gender fluidity makes it so much more interesting, because a warrior culture normally makes me think of very rigid sets of rules and social structures, and that really wasn't the case here.
I don't remember the last time in a Star Wars book we had like a new culture introduced that was this well defined and explored.
I agree. It made me almost think about, I remember when we were watching Andor, how well the Gorman were explored.
Yeah.
And we really understood who they were as a culture. And in other books, it doesn't always feel like that. It's like, okay, here's a new planet. We're going to throw it away. And this is what it is. But
it's another desert planet.
Another desert planet. But Tessa did a phenomenal job creating a brand new culture that we want to see more of, just like with the Gorman. Right. We want to see more. Well,
might not see more of Gorman.
In this vein, I would say probably my biggest critique of the novel is I still don't understand what Leo's plan was.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was I feel like I really needed Leo to like monologue and explain like what they were doing. And
I know, like villain monologue at the end, like just tell Jecki
this is why.
Yeah, it was something.
And there was a little bit that
like, I know that they wanted Rose out of the trial, and they brought in the lilacs, I think, were the big monsters that they weren't supposed to
lilacs,
be killing, to like set everything off, and they were like these outside people were trying to get the heart of Silene, I think is what it was called, like the core of the planet or whatever. They were trying to get that. And I don't really know what the goal was.
I kind of land in the same spot as you, where it's the last 6 chapters got very muddled for me. Once the Convocation was disrupted, I was like, I knew as a graph, there's some plot there. Because that's what the graphs always do. In all of these books, there's always some plot that they're hatching. And so I knew not to trust them. But I didn't know what it was going to be and how it was going to unfold. And then I'm still kind of like, I didn't quite follow. And my understanding is that it was just to disrupt the Convocation, because the Convocation wouldn't be accepted by the Republic as the means to select your leadership. And so by disrupting that, it would push them more towards the Republic, which is what Leo wanted, I think, is my understanding. And that's kind of where I ended up.
Sounds right. Maybe it just wasn't explicit.
Yeah.
It's not an enormous deal, but I agree. I was a little confused. It almost felt like we could have used a few more chapters to flesh out what exactly was happening. And the mercenaries at the end, they were just there to collect the liver stones of the what was that species called? The Arikati or something like that.
Yeah, the Arikati, yeah.
Yep.
And they were just after money, I guess. And so Leo brought them there for the money, but then they decided they also wanted the heart of Silene. Does that sound right?
I think Leo told them that was the best place to hide.
Okay.
Because no one would be there during the Convocation. They would all be focused on the Convocation, so there wouldn't be anyone at the heart, which non-Silinese were not supposed to go there.
Yeah.
So it was like off limits. And to Leo, that was also, I think, like I want to be accepted by these people, but I might not have ever been able to go there. So getting to go there was a big thing for them to go to the heart. Yeah.
And they felt almost. I feel like I remember Leo mentioning that they almost felt disrespectful, like they weren't supposed to be there. And there may have been a more proper way to go.
How did you guys feel with the very end with Rose and Leo's ending? Because I thought I really thought after all that happens, after Jecki is rescued, basically rescues herself, and then Leo is captured and is going to be put on trial and requests a trial by combat. I thought it was going to be like that was it.
Yeah.
And we weren't going to hear anything else. It was just going to be ambiguous. And I was like, oh, that's a cool way to end it. But then it goes out a little further. So how did you guys feel about that kind of ending for them, for Leo, for Rose, for that story?
It almost felt like you could have removed that chapter and everything would have been fine. The reason I like that chapter, one, I feel like it solidifies that there was romance here and they they kissed each other and we're in a relationship, which is fun. Always love more relationships in Star Wars. That's great. Two, it was very interesting. It seemed to be, Rose kind of took Leo against their will. And I feel like this is prime sequel time. I feel like we've got some room here for a little sequel, which we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'd love some more content. So I thought it was great. I agree. I thought they were going the direction of Leo was going to have this combat and we're not going to know what's going to happen to them. And that's fine. That would have been fine for me. Leo wasn't a character who I necessarily needed to see more of. I would like to, I guess, if we have a sequel here. But it's not an absolute necessity. The main focus was Yord and Jecki and their relationship together rather than Leo.
But the thing about the trial by combat was either Leo or Sidio was going to die. Like one of the main characters of the book was going to die. So I was surprised that when I also mentioned that Rose knocked him out, like pricked him with the. I thought Rose was killing him, killing Leo, so that they wouldn't have to go through the trial and it'd be a whole thing. So I was surprised. That whole chapter was like a little whirlwind.
Was it explicit that Rose was taking them away somewhere, or could Leo have died there?
I think it said they weren't seen again. So I guess theoretically,
I think Rose took Leo away.
Yeah.
That's
But when it said that Rose pricked him or whatever.
Oh, that
felt like
I
a
thought
little
that
prick
Rose
in
was,
his neck.
Yeah, I thought Rose was poisoning him, so that I didn't they were trying to protect Sidia
rather than lose their
sister. I didn't know what they were trying to go for there, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was good to get that extra little bit.
Yeah. Okay. I was landing on one or the either way of if it's ambiguous, I was okay with that. But I also like that. Yeah, they're off into the galaxy somewhere, and maybe we're going to pick it up with them somewhere else. They probably won't go to Coruscant and go to a university like they dreamed of.
No.
But I was okay with that. How did you guys like the three structures of the kind of the convocation, like the battle? Because to me, it felt very much like a tournament arc of an anime. I watched a lot of anime growing up, and that was a staple of there's a tournament arc and there's these different things, and so that's what I made the connection to. But I know you guys kind of landed with Hunger Games or Triwizard Tournament, but how did you like the three? What did you think kind of they represented or what they meant?
I thought it was all cool. The first one was a little lackluster, but it kind of helped us establish who our secondary cast were. It taught us a lot more about Rose, Sidia, and Leo.
Yeah.
I
have to say I like how they had a intro night dance. I thought that was that, and that's kind of how you get to know each other. You're gonna it's not just that you're saying they're talking to each other to get to know each other, but it's feeling the movement of each other's bodies. I thought that was really fascinating. It was a great
dance,
opportunity.
not unlike the Yule Ball,
right? Yes, another Triwizard Tournament connection. True.
And then I thought that the big point of that first one for me was we're getting to know who our three new main characters are. And it was nice to see them all kind of come together and get to know each other. And then it almost felt like Cedric coming up to Harry and being like, put the egg in the water. And they kind of told them like what's going to come in the next trial.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should be drawing this many parallels to a Harry Potter book, but I feel like I keep finding things.
Yeah.
So I think that's very interesting.
What was your favorite? Did you guys like the survival part the most?
Yeah.
It was the survival part was my favorite.
Yeah.
That was the most interesting. I felt like it's where we got the most it was the most contrast, like we said earlier. How do the Jedi have to change to adapt to the Silinese, or vice versa, as the Silinese is joining the Republic? How do they have to adapt to be a part of the Republic? Jecki and Yord were very upset about the way that Rose, I guess, didn't kill, but basically assaulted that other trio of people when there was no reason to. And that was foreign to them. But to the Silinese, it was showing weakness if you let them take something, even if you didn't want it. It's just a interesting dynamic. Jecki and Yord did not seem to really understand the Silinese. Even by the end, I don't think they really did. You know, they were Jedi and they had a different set of morals than the Silinese did.
Yeah, they understood the concept of respecting other people's culture, but they didn't understand the culture of the people.
They wouldn't have requested a trial by combat.
No.
At the end,
No, they
right?
would not have.
Right.
And I don't think they
that
agreed
was,
with that. No.
Yeah. I think that was a big theme of this book was like, how much do you adapt yourself to the people that you're in? If you're in a different culture and you want to respect another people's culture, but you also don't want to just change and bend everything about yourself to them. But then the Silinese are also trying to, in some ways, do that. They're talking about joining the Republic, and they've changed, over the years, they've changed their culture. They've changed their ways of, now this is, you're not killing the Irikati, you're tagging them. You're not killing people in this battle. You're, just defeating them, getting them to yield. And I thought the parallel between the Silinese changing their culture and Yord and Jecki having to kind of adapt themselves to this culture was really, really interesting. It really came to a head for me personally when they talked about being vegetarian and not eating these animals, because I'm a vegetarian. And so like I was like, oh my gosh, I've never thought about like how Jedi don't want to kill just anything really if they don't have to. And so that would probably mean that generally they're vegetarian. And I've never honestly made that parallel in my head before. I couldn't believe it when it came up. I was like, duh, it felt so obvious to me. But what did you guys think about like that parallel of changing yourself to match the people that are around you? Did you feel the same?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was something that I thought was fun. Well, not fun, but that they mentioned with the liver stones, there would be some old Silinese who would still have these archaic liver stones on show as like a representation of the old ways. And you have some people within your culture who aren't willing to make those changes and who still want to hold on to the way things used to be. And that's obviously paralleled in the real world too, where we have people who don't want to accept that things are different now and we don't do things the way we used to. And it's time to grow the F up.
For me, that ties into very closely into what I kind of thought was like the overall theme of the novel. I think that was really kind of solidified at the end of the novel when Cydia gives Jecki the sword with the quote on it. The quote is "forged for proper strength." And I feel like all of the characters in the novel are like trying to figure out what proper strength is. So like the novel starts off with the Jedi that upset the culture because he didn't want to engage in the combat that was proposed to. I think it was he proposed to him, and you like all of the trials were based on strength. Was figuring out like how to. The first one was like how to dominate your opponent. The other one was you had all the different things, like we mentioned, the knocking the people off the pillar, like just because you could. You're not wanting to kill the little. It was like the little aquatic animals for his hair.
Right.
And like all the different things, and I think that was like a really cool thing, and it came down to commentary on the culture of how do we keep our warrior ways without actually like killing people or animals. And it seemed like the core of our characters were on board with like not killing the Aracati. And like we didn't hear City be like, like back in the old days we would have been doing this, and like
that was better.
The wokes or getting
Right.
yeah,
The
wokes. Yeah. Like they seemed pretty on board with it, but then you had the instance with them with the pillar, where like I would argue that was a pretty like they could have died, like they fell off a tall pillar. And I think that's like an interesting dynamic, and I think you could argue that Leo didn't understand. Like at the end, Leo didn't understand this. Like he way overplayed his hand, trying to upset the balance of the game. And I think that Jecki and Yord kind of realized what they were doing. Like, Jecki was like, I do need to use the Force in this. But like, I think that is proper strength. It's for me to use the Force to save this person. And I think overall that was a cool concept that was manifest throughout the whole novel.
I do like Jecki's kind of wrestling with when would be the appropriate time to use the Force, right? To save a life, of course, obviously, right? Or the lightsaber that she carries with her when she's not supposed to. Yeah, like trying to wrestle with when is the right time to use something that I've been told I shouldn't, right? Yeah. I thought that was a deeply like personal struggle that, I just really liked seeing a Jedi wrestle with when to do something. Because it feels like we see the Jedi sometimes try and do too much or try to overplay their hand and try and step in and aid all the time. But she tried to not do that, not use it all the time or rely on it very quickly unless it was like the literal last moment. And even Leo says that arrow wouldn't have killed Rose, but that was a little bit of an intense choice to shoot an arrow at your lover to get them out of the tournament, but it worked out for them, and I thought it was just interesting to see that wrestling between of Jecki when to use the Force and when not to.
I did want to talk about Jecki and Yord in the context of the Acolyte. So throughout the book, Jecki and Yord are making they're talking about the future. At one point, Rose says that that Leo will come with them to Coruscant to go to university, and they'll see Jecki when they're there. And then Jecki and Yord mention later, when we're both knights, we're going to do this when they're flying the vectors at the very end. And oh my goodness, that just broke my heart, because we all know that they're both going to die in, I think it's the 5th episode of The Acolyte.
Yeah.
Oh, I had to go back and rewatch that scene just to get in the feels, but I didn't like it. It always made me feel sick every time I read them making future plans together. I was just a little upset, and it made me, I already like the characters, obviously Yord, Horde, and Jecki Jam, but this book made me connect with them a little bit more deeply than I did from just the show, because obviously they weren't the main characters of the show. Right. And so it makes their deaths hurt just a little bit more now that I know a little bit more about them. And dang, I got to tell you, this makes me want more Acolytes. I want more Acolyte bad. And unfortunately, I'm thinking that we're getting to the point where it's not going to happen, but you never know.
Hey, we got Clone Wars season 7.
We got Clone Wars season 7.
So,
we never know. And you know what? If they don't finish the Acolyte in the show, give us a book, give us some comics. I want to know more about these characters.
I think
I'd rather have a show.
I think the nice thing about Acolyte is you could realistically do a pretty long time jump. Yeah, it would still be okay.
And really, you just need Osha and Chimere. Soul's gone. The kids are gone.
And
Vernestra you would need back. So you don't, luckily with this particular show, you don't have as many, and the Force priests, what were they called? The Force cult. They're not cultists, really. The women, the Force witches, I guess. They're gone, except for one of them, whose name I'm suddenly not remembering. One of them, didn't she get away?
Coral.
Yes, Mother Coral.
Coral.
Yeah. And so you don't have but so many people you have to wrangle schedules together for. So,
right.
If they change their mind, we can get back into this. I think the hardest one is going to be for what's his face?
Manny
Jacinto.
Yeah.
he's getting.
He
more
was talking
popular.
about that. He was talking about the Acolyte recently on his
was.
press tour for Free
I think
Show
he
Friday.
cares about
Yeah.
it. I mean, I think he
No.
likes it a lot, so I think he'd be willing to jump back in. But who knows? I think
Who wouldn't
hopefully good
wouldn't
things.
want to do more Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have Ewan McGregor always consistently talking about like doing more, wanting to do it again. He
I
loves it
know.
so much. Like
I
it
think
feels like for a lot of actors, like that's a career highlight for them.
Everyone except Harrison Ford.
he is just a dour man. There was a news thing this morning that was like, Ewan McGregor is filming scenes for Ahsoka now. And then I was like, oh, wait, no, he's not. And I feel like we always get little things like that where someone's coming back.
What happened was he said something in a quote that was
He would love to wear the
misconstrued.
clone trooper, the Clone Wars armor,
yeah.
right?
Well, he
wear it.
said he was talking about something and he was referring to his wife filming for Ahsoka. He said like, oh yeah, we're filming Ahsoka in the fall or something like that. And he was like, to clarify, I was like, I meant like we're moving there because my wife is filming.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
But hey, you never know. We never know, right?
Yeah.
I think
you don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think this book is also a really good example of like set outside of the Skywalker saga, set outside of High Republic. It's this fertile ground where so many stories can lie, right? And I think that's really, really important for like the future of Star Wars is that if it's just still going to be stuck within, now that High Republic's pretty much ending, if we're still stuck within this Skywalker saga, like it's a shame because this was a great story outside of that story. And even if, like I said, even if you haven't watched The Acolyte, I think you could still enjoy and like this book a whole lot.
Absolutely. You don't have to know anything about this besides Jedi. I mean, once you know Jedi, you could read this book, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Right. And I think that's where it's so important is it brought us to a whole new era, a timeline that we haven't explored before, but it just gave us a great story. And it doesn't need to be about main characters or anything like that.
Well, and the nice thing too is, I think we've figured out this is about 2 years before the Acolyte. And all of Clone Wars was in 3 years. We got 7 seasons of the TV show. So I think there's plenty of time for Jecki and Yord to go on a few more adventures.
Well, future. I mean, I would love a sequel to this book. I think we have Rose and Leo who escaped. It feels like that was inserted to set something up. I would love to see Tessa write some. I blue skied Tessa earlier to say how much I wanted a sequel. I would love it if she wrote another one starring these characters, and we'll have to see what Tessa comes out with.
Yeah, I haven't seen any interviews or anything about this book with her. So I want to try and look in and see if she's, on press tour, like what she's been talking about, what it was like. Because whether she's going to be writing more Star Wars content or not, whether she has ideas for where they would go from this point on, it'd be really cool to hear.
Well, do we have any other thoughts about the Crystal Crown?
Read it if you haven't read it. Or at least
it
buy
good.
it so that they know people like Acolytes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Buy the book, put it on a bookshelf.
Yeah. Like these.
Yeah.
It is. It looks like it is really nice that it's the same size as the other High Republic young adult novels. Like it goes right on the shelf with the rest of them.
Looks identical to our other High Republic books.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Don't put Wayseeker next to it because Wayseeker looks very different compared to the High Republic books.
Yeah.
I organize my books very differently than Mike does. Yeah. I go by book type, not by
timeline order. Gotta go timeline order.
We hard disagree there.
So we don't know what the future of the Acolyte and this book, whether we'll get some more onto that. But what's the future for us? What are we looking forward to for the next couple of weeks?
Well, Austin and I just picked up a new Bad Batch book that we're going to be reading in the next couple of weeks. And Mike, I think you're going to pick that up sometime tomorrow or in the next couple of days. So we've got another book club on in 2 weeks.
That's a Bad Batch Sanctuary. If you want to read along,
please do. We would love it if you read with us. Leave a comment on our TikToks or YouTube, or leave a comment on our Blue Sky or podcast apps. We'd love to hear from you guys. We're having a lot of fun going through all this Star Wars stuff together. I read it a lot of it anyway, but it's just so much more fun to be able to sit down and talk to you guys about it.
Yeah. And then the other big thing on our horizon in about 20 days is going to be Dragon Con.
Dragon Con. Mike's
So
going for the big Star Wars trivia contest.
Yeah, we'll see. We're all going to do it. We're all going to try.
Yep.
We're all going to do it. I think Mike's the one who's destined to be on stage, though.
We'll see. We'll see. It's hard.
He's been
it's
training.
very, very hard. But regardless of whether I'm on stage or not, we're just going to have a lot of fun down at Dragon Con. I think we'll probably do an episode that is a recap of everything we saw, the authors that we'll see. I know I have a list of books to bring. Timothy Zahn's going to be there. Delilah Dawson's going to be there. So we're going to be seeing some of the authors. She is not, as far as I know.
Oh, that would be a shame. I'd love to talk to her about the book.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye out for future conventions and stuff like that to connect with the authors and hear more about their thoughts. I love getting to hear them in interviews talk about the books and stuff like that. I really want to hear what it's like to write a Star Wars novel.
Star Wars Celebration 2027.
2027. Yes. We're gonna be there. We're planning on it.
There.
I'm just excited to travel the country with you guys, going to various conventions.
Yeah.
This is our life now. 12
eventually.
episodes. It's our life.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, in 2 weeks, then we'll be talking about the Bad Batch Sanctuary. And then after that, I think we'll be right around the time of Dragon Con. And so we'll be talking about our experience at Dragon Con, how that went. Hopefully, maybe if you're listening, you'll see us there, or you'll be paying attention to anything that happens down at that event. But until then, I think this is going to be Rogue 3 signing off.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for joining us to talk about the galaxy far, far away. You can find us on Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, and TikTok as Rogue 3 Media. We look forward to talking with you at the next rendezvous point.